top stories. Activist urges Ethiopian diaspora to determinedly prevent HR 6600's approval. And President Kenyatta calls on international community to lift sanctions against Zimbabwe. Hello and many thanks for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Do stay with us. The governing party of Ethiopia, Prosperity Party PP, will begin its first Congress in Addis Ababa tomorrow. Some 1,600 members of the party will take part in the three-day Congress to be held under the theme From Challenge to Elevation. Additional 400 invited guests without voting rights will also attend the Congress. Over 40 sister parties from 38 different countries, local competing political parties, elders, scholars, and prominent personalities are also invited to attend the meeting, according to ENAM. The main agendas of the Congress include reviewing the reform journey, consolidating achievements attained, and correcting weaknesses it was learned. Spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Dina Mufti, briefed the media on current affairs, including political and economic diplomacy issues. In terms of the U.S.-Ethiopia relationship, the ambassador recalled the briefing made by Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen for the newly appointed Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Addis Ababa, Ambassador Tracy Ann Davidson. Listen to him.
Well, the ambassador was briefed on the need for strengthening bilateral relations between Ethiopia and the United States. The Deputy Prime Minister also briefed the Charge d'Affaires about the fact that Ethiopia doesn't deserve impediments in her access to agua. And he said HR 6600 Ethiopia doesn't deserve it, and it doesn't measure up to the level of the relationship between Ethiopia and the United States. The ambassador also expressed gratitude for being briefed and being given the hearings. She also expressed the fact that the United States is also interested in further strengthening relationship with Ethiopia.
In regards to appointment of former International Criminal Court ICC Chief Prosecutor to head the UN Commission of Inquiry into alleged human rights violations by all parties to the conflict in Ethiopia, this is what he had to say.
Well, you're asking me Ethiopia's position on the appointment of the prosecutors in the commission. We have not yet taken any position. We are consulting with our colleagues with regard to what position we should take.
The spokesperson also reiterated different activities made by Ethiopian ambassadors living abroad to strengthen the bilateral relations of Ethiopia with respective countries.
As you know very well, our ambassadors and consul generals abroad are entrusted with the task of promoting national interests wherever they have missions. In this case, our ambassador in Sudan met the Sudanese minister and they briefed him on the current situations in Ethiopia and the need for restarting border trade with Sudan and coordinate the efforts to secure peace and security in the border areas. Our envoy to Belgium also met with the director of the African Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and she briefed the director on the current situation in the country. The Republic of Congo has appointed a new ambassador, and that ambassador has presented a copy of his credential to the Protocol Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
The HR 6600 bill will seriously affect Ethiopians if passed. So Ethiopians, especially the diaspora communities, need to do all they can determinedly in order to prevent its approval. American community activist Sharaz Siddiqui made these remarks in an exclusive interview with ETV. Shifarau Lako interviewed him.
If this bill is approved by President Joe Biden, it will have diverse crippling effects on Ethiopia. Many say, and the country, as you know, is in the midst of diverse issues, and it already has a lot on its plate to deal with. So, in your views, what should be done beforehand to minimize such risks?
See, this bill, HR 6600, was introduced by Mr. Tom, and to his understanding, he just introduced it. And there's a lot had to be done. This bill is very biased. It's undermining the majority of Ethiopians, and the bill is gonna cripple the economy, the situation, and stability in Ethiopia. This bill has some serious issues, and it will create a lot of tensions within the country. It has to be seriously revised, or we have to advocate not for this bill to pass.
Ethiopians, as you know, are voicing their dismay at the bill, and they are strongly denouncing. They have been strongly denouncing the bill. So how strong, in your view, and united should Ethiopians be at such a critical time as the East African nation is going through such threats?
Yeah, as I say, this bill is very biased, and what we have to do, Ethiopians have to do, is stand determined. Don't give up, stand with it. It's very biased bill. We have to denounce it, and we have to fight for it. We have to write to Congress. Especially Ethiopian Americans here in America have a direct say. They can write letters, they can email Congress and explain how this bill is going to impact in a negative manner and how is a hindrance to Ethiopian success, stability, and peace.
A young Gambian Pan-Africanist, Ousmane Touré, said it is now high time for Africans to stand together and boost their cooperation for better representations at the international arena. Ousmane further talked to ETV that Pan-Africanism should be underpinned with concrete policies and principles in a way where young Africans get involved. Alula Taklamariam sat down with the young Pan-Africanist and compiled the following story. Take a look.
Connect Africa.
Ousmane Touré, a young Gambian Pan-Africanist, welcome to Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation, the English department. Can we say something about Pan-Africanism and how should you think that proceed from this?
Yes, I think the most important part is shifting or just moving forward from the discussion to the structures. Basically, the arguments are there. There's a lot of knowledge and scholarly works about Pan-Africanism, and people are really promoting this, though it has not really trickle down to all the masses and for everybody around the continent to be really aware on what are the fundamentals and the principles of Pan-Africanism. But moving to the structures will as well be really beneficial for the future that we want to build. Knowing that we can discuss about it, but what are the structures put in place to promote that Pan-Africanness among ourselves? Because the desire to integrate, the desire to move from one country to another without, being troubled, the desire for Africans to recognize each other, to have opportunities in different African countries can only be enhanced if the structures are put in place. So what I believe is the political will, our governments must be deliberate in their actions to invite Africans worldwide into the continent and give them similar opportunities, just like we are giving people outside of the continent. But build those structures and have the political will, have the laws and etc. that will protect Africans to invest in Africa, but to equally enjoy the blessings of the continent.
There is still efforts to harm Ethiopia's economics through various sanctions. How do you think Ethiopia should cope up with this and the cooperation of other African countries in helping Ethiopia?
Well, you see, one of the most difficult challenges that Africa has been going through is the fact that each country speaks individually. And when sanctions are levied on them, they do it on individual countries, and it really makes it difficult for them to strive. This is the home of the African Union. And the African Union is not just a structure. It has to be spiritual and based on founding principles in which the African Union was built upon. So Africa must speak with one voice, but there has to be a cooperation among African countries to say no when it is in the disadvantage of a single African country. How do we protect each other in the global market? How do we protect each other in the global space? Especially when it comes to politics and manipulation. We all know that there is no balance in international politics. And there are a lot of forces outside there that only looks at their interest in the continent. And Ethiopia have been a victim for so many years. It's high time that Africans, look forward to that brotherhood, that Ethiopia has always been the root and the founding principle of what Africa is, and we build upon that to voice, to speak with the same language, with the same tune, but to equally condemn where necessary.
What do you think Africa should learn from other continents like the Europe to boost their cooperations in various areas?
Yes, almost every country or almost every international organization is built on values and principles. Now, what are those values and principles, for instance? What was the African Union built upon? And if you look at the European Union or any other international organization, be it in Asia or different, like the NICS and etc., all of them have principles in which they operate upon. And those principles includes giving priority to their own people. But not only that, protecting their own businesses. And the recent conflict between Russia and Ukraine is a justification that, everybody is promoting peace in that region, but at the same time, not wanting to undermine their own interests. So what was the foundation? What was the principles? What were the values through which the African Union was built upon? How do we make sure that it's not a union where we own the structures in Africa, but a union that Africa owns, and everything it does depicts the African interest? So on moving forward, we have to understand that the African Union must represent Africa, and our African leaders should be conscious of some of these realities, that you're not voted in by people to represent a Chinese or to represent European or American. No, the people vote for you on task. People vote for you because you promise them development, you promise them employment, you promise that you will protect them. So not breaching this trust that people have upon you to the extent that they mobilize themselves with little or more resources, whatever they have, should be built upon, put in structures, put the will and open up the space. Let African Union, African government be enablers and give a level playing ground for young Africans to realize their full potentials and capabilities in the continent.
Ethiopia is the land of origin and opportunities. This is an historic chance for us as a country and for all states in the world as well. This is where we get the world together. The world is here. It gave us a lot of opportunities to be seen, to be visited, to be perceived, to be realized. When you first enter Ethiopian Pavilion, the first thing you see is the Ethiopian traditional clothes. On the right side, you see diversity. You see our originality, our ancient civilization. We have our own alphabet. We have a coins that shows ancient civilization and modernization as well in it. There are a lot of agricultural products, coffee, sesame, beans, spices, a lot of spices, and industrial products, leathers. After you finish, you see and you taste very quality organic coffee. We export coffee to the world. More than 500,000 visitors came to our pavilion for the last 5 months. Coming here changes the perception that they have for the country. Ethiopia do have a lot of untapped opportunities and the potentials. Our vision is as a beacon of the prosperity in the continent by 2022, in the sense that 2030 according to Gregorian calendar. We want to send our message to the world to buy Ethiopian products, to come and visit our pavilion, to invest in Ethiopia, in agriculture, industry, agro-processing, mining, tourism, untapped, untouched resources are there.
Welcome back. You're watching Addis News Hour. General Secretary of Tigray Democratic Party, Gideon Medhin, condemns the recent press statement issued by the TPLF terrorist group. He has also accentuated that Tigrayans need to calm down and carefully think about how they can get rid of the terrorist group hand in glove with the government of Ethiopia and the people. Kazahun Chane has this report.
The Tigray Democratic Party General Secretary Gideon Medhin, in an exclusive interview with BBC English, denounces the recent press statement issued by the TPLF terrorist group, noting it was the very nature of the party.
Every soul of the Ethiopian population, even the world knows what the TPLF leadership means. They are warmongering. I don't think they can live in a peaceful situation. They just maximize the warmongering nature of their political nature. So for me, the press statement issued recently is not any different from the ones they have been boasting or broadcasting or heralding every time. So for me, it emanates from the very nature of the political leadership of the TPLFites. As you may know, they are warmongers. They love, they don't care about the casualties they are giving to the Ethiopian population, to the country as a whole. So it doesn't impress me much, because for someone who follows the very nature of this political leadership, the press statement issued recently is not any different from the ones we have been seeing.
This kind of act is evil and warmongering over the nation, according to Gideon Medhin.
The TPLF leadership cannot live in a peaceful situation. They create such havoc, as you mentioned, Elel. They have been exercising so many crimes when they were in the Ethiopian government position. So they have to create some kind of political theater like this, so that the Ethiopian people would not take them to the justice they committed while they were in the government. So for me, the TPLF leadership, or the upper echelon of the TPLF, is excellent in such things. So for me, it showed us in a beautiful, or in a more clear way, that they are warmongers, and they don't care about the country and the people they tell us they lead.
The people of Tigray have existed even before the TPLF. Hence, the people of Tigray and the TPLF are not one, and they can't be, he stated. Although the people of Tigray are very innocent and peace-loving, the TPLF banditry group is beyond the capacity of the people, according to him.
I wish they were not even created from these people, or born from these people, the leadership, I mean. So the destiny of the people of Tigray lies in the hands of the people of Tigray. These people, or the upper echelon of the TPLF, we have seen them for the last 30 years in Ethiopia, even in Tigray for the last 47 years, almost 5 decades. So the people of Tigray is clear with the nature of the political nature, or with the conspiracy they brought about to the people of Tigray. As you may know, the people of Tigray is neighbor to the great people of Amhara, the great people of Afar. You know what they have done to the relationship.
Furthermore, the General Secretary underlined the people of Tigray are proud Ethiopians. The terrorist TPLF, the enemy of Tigray, emphasizing they demanded the government to free the people in Tigray from the continued tyranny of the terrorist group.
For now, the people of Tigray sometimes they created, you know, they made it surrounded by enemies due to the bad political leadership of the TPLF. So the people of Tigray should do something. They should overthrow the political leadership of Tigray. So the destiny is so doomed for me. The destiny of the people of Tigray is doomed. I don't see any light. So in my opinion, the people of Tigray should do something and throw them away.
He underscored Tigrayans need to calm down and carefully think about how they could get rid of the terrorist group and contribute their share towards that end.
Ethiopia-Israel Parliamentary Friendship Association, in collaboration with the Ethiopian Embassy in Israel, held a roundtable discussion on Wednesday in the Israeli Parliament Knesset to consult on ways of raising funds to support affected people in Ethiopia due to conflict and drought. Delivering a keynote speech, member of the Knesset and chairman of Ethiopia-Israel Friendship, Gadi Yevarkan, mentioned the long-standing relationship between Israel and Ethiopia and underscored the need to support Ethiopians in times of need. Ethiopian ambassador to Israel, Alemu Rata, on his part, appreciated the initiative taken to organize the roundtable discussion and spoke in detail about the destruction of human lives and infrastructure due to the conflict in the northern part of the country, besides the destructive effects of drought that occurred in some parts of Ethiopia. In business news, in a major policy change, State Minister of Finance Eyob Takaling said that, just like the telecom sector, the government will open up the retail sector to foreign companies. The government needs to consider alternative ways to increase citizens' income by creating general economic growth, Dr. Eyob said. In the meantime, he expects the government to come up with different solutions to control the rising inflation. Jerusalem Betzaha tells you more.
According to the Addis Standard, which is an Ethiopian monthly social, economic and political news magazine, State Minister of Finance Eyob Takaling is quoted saying the government will open up retail sector to foreign companies to tackle economic challenges. Although inflation has decreased to 33.60% in the month of February, down from 34.50% in January this year, the price of basic commodities continued to go through the roof, creating shock waves among consumers. According to the State Minister, the price of commodities in the world market is rising sharply. One of the main reasons for the current inflation is that the price of imported goods fell directly on consumers. The monetary policy that the government is using to cover its expense is also creating pressure of its own, he said, adding that if the government can't fix this over time, things will get worse. The State Minister expressed a hope that because the government has chosen peace, the domestic security situation is expected to improve soon, and that will in return stabilize the market. However, he pointed out that because the country's retail market system is controlled by a few, it has made the government to rethink about bringing rapid reforms. Just like the telecom sector was opened to foreign competition, so will Ethiopia's retail market system. Also, reforms have made a big difference, especially in the export sector. When challenges pile up, delaying some reforms will be seen as a solution, he said. According to the State Minister, the doubling of price in some products in the international market, such as steel, edible oil and fuel, as well as the security situation in Ethiopia, has caused major supply disruption and the current inflation. But he also blamed traders who don't consider profits as adequate unless they make a whopping profit margin of 200%. The latest sharp increase in commodities is the price of cooking oil. This week, the sudden increase has sent officials scrambling for answers. The price of a pack of 5 liters cooking oil soared to 1,000 Ethiopian birr at retail stores, up from 600 Ethiopian birr last week. That's why Job said when the retail market system is open to competition, it will make the traders to come back to their sense.
And now take a quick look at the latest foreign exchange rates. Ethiopian ambassador in Italy, Ambassador Demitu Hambisa, had a meeting with Ambassador Tomasz Kunstelj, Slovenia's ambassador in Rome, and discussed bilateral relations between the two countries. On the occasion, Ambassador Demitu briefed her Slovenian counterpart about Ethiopia's potential on investment, trade, tourism, beekeeping, and the technology sector. Ambassador Tomasz, on his part, mentioned that Slovenia values its long-standing relations with Ethiopia. He further expressed his country's strong desire to strengthen the relationship with Ethiopia, mainly in the areas of investment, beekeeping, and technology transfer. The two sides also appreciated the existing encouraging ties and agreed to further strengthen the bilateral relationship between the two countries.